There are whispers on the internet, stories of a TV broadcast that was supposedly wiped from existence. They talk about a piece of children's television so shocking that a multi-million-dollar corporation allegedly destroyed every last trace of it. For decades, it's been a holy grail for lost media hunters. A single 30-minute episode of a beloved 90s game show that Nickelodeon desperately tried to bury. This isn't just some creepypasta. This is a story that has survived for over 20 years, fueled by cryptic accounts and a sliver of truth. The legend says a child had a complete meltdown on camera, that the footage was deemed too disturbing to ever air, and that network executives ordered the master tape to be erased from the archives, pretending it never happened. Tonight, we're putting on our detective hats. We're going to sift through the folklore, separate the forum rumors from the verifiable facts, and dive into the Nickelodeon vault to answer the question once and for all. Is there really a lost episode that the network tried to erase forever? As it turns out, the answer is far more fascinating than the myth itself. This is the story of the broadcast they want you to believe never existed. Asterisk, if you grew up in the 90s, Legends of the Hidden Temple was more than just a game show. It was a fantasy. You had the perilous moat crossing, the frustrating steps of knowledge, and of course, the terrifying final temple run, complete with its mysterious lurking temple guards. It was a show that pitted kids against other kids in a race for historical artifacts, and for a generation it was required after-school viewing. But just beneath the surface of this happy memory lies one of the most persistent urban legends in TV history. The story always starts in the same place. The internet of the early 2000s. On old-school message boards and in chat rooms dedicated to 90s nostalgia, a rumor began to spread. It was a shared, foggy memory of an episode that just felt different, darker. The details were hazy, like a half-remembered dream. One person remembered a contestant getting seriously hurt. Another recalled an episode ending abruptly. But over time, these scattered memories combined into one chilling story. The legend, as we tell it today, focuses on a young female contestant during the final temple run. The pressure is on. The clock is ticking. She navigates the labyrinth but gets hopelessly stuck in a notoriously difficult obstacle, the pit of despair. For those who don't remember, this was a claustrophobic ball pit contestants had to fight their way through. In the story, the girl, exhausted and disoriented, starts to panic. She can't get out. The clock hits 0, but something is very wrong. She begins to cry, then scream. And then, according to the legend, she throws up. Right there in the ball pit. The story claims that filming was shut down immediately. The kid was traumatized, the set was a mess, and the producers had a huge problem. The footage was allegedly deeply unsettling. It wasn't the triumphant, fun-filled adventure Nickelodeon sold to millions of kids. It was the raw, unfiltered image of a child's genuine distress. And here's where the story morphs from an on-set mishap into a conspiracy. The legend insists that Nickelodeon executives, terrified of the bad press from airing footage of a child's breakdown, made a drastic call. They didn't just decide not to air the episode. They ordered the physical master tape to be destroyed, wiped from history so that no one, not even network archivists, could ever see it again. The episode didn't just go into a vault. It was annihilated, This story has all the perfect ingredients for a lost media legend. It takes a cherished childhood memory and twists it into something dark. It has a faceless corporation silencing the truth. And most importantly, it has the allure of the forbidden. It's a piece of media we're told we're not supposed to see. So the question remains, did any of it actually happen? To get to the bottom of this, we have to move past the folklore and start a real investigation. If a full 30-minute episode was produced and then yanked, there should be a paper trail. Production codes, scheduling logs, TV guide listings, something to prove it once existed. First stop: digital archives of television history. After scouring online databases of TV listings from the mid-90s, when Legends was at its peak, a problem for the legend emerges. In the show's entire 120-episode run, there are no missing episodes. Every single production code is accounted for. The episode numbers run in perfect sequence. There are no gaps in the broadcast history that would suggest an entire installment was pulled. Okay, so if there's no missing episode slot, maybe the legend got the details wrong. What if the incident happened, but the episode was just edited and aired with the disturbing parts cut out? That seems more plausible, but this is where the theory of the destroyed tape comes in a much harder claim to prove or disprove. In the era of analog tape, networks often reused videotapes to save money. A lot of lost media from that time is gone not because of a sinister plot, but because it was simply recorded over. The legend, however, insists this was a deliberate, targeted act of destruction. Without a source, it's just a theory. For years, that's where the story stalled. It was a perfect, unverifiable digital ghost story. Until the host himself decided to talk. The breakthrough came in a 2016 video for Great Big Story with the face of the show himself, Kirk Fogg. When asked about the show's secrets, Fogg finally addressed the decades-old rumor. And what he said sent shockwaves through the lost media community. He confirmed it happened, Part of it. Fogg described how a young girl, bless her heart, got stuck and completely exhausted in the pit of despair and then threw up. He said they had to stop production, clean the ball pit, and comfort the crying and upset contestant. There it was, the kernel of truth. A young contestant, the pit of despair, the exhaustion, the breakdown, the vomiting, it was all real. But then Fogg delivered the second half of the story, the part the legend always conveniently leaves out. He said they cleaned everything up, calmed the child down, reset her right where she'd been, and then yelled, "Go." They didn't send her home. They didn't destroy the tape. According to the host, they just resumed filming the temple run. This completely changes the narrative. The story was no longer about a lost episode, but about a production problem that was handled and edited around. The sinister corporate cover-up was, in reality, a production team dealing with a tough situation on set and then getting on with their day. The moments of the breakdown were almost certainly left on the cutting room floor, a standard practice in television, and a far cry from destroying an entire episode. To really understand how different this is from a banned episode, you have to look at cases where Nickelodeon actually did pull the plug. Take Ren and Stimpy. The show was famous for fighting with Nickelodeon's censors. One of its most notorious episodes, Man's Best Friend, was banned by the network before it ever aired because the character George Liquor viciously beats Ren and Stimpy with an oar. It was deemed way too violent for a children's show and was shelved for over a decade. Another episode, Ren's Retirement, which depicted the character contemplating his own death and being buried alive, was also pulled from rotation for being too dark for kids. Then there's the series finale of Angry Beavers, titled Bye Bye Beavers. The episode was banned for a completely different reason. It was too self-aware. In the script, the Beaver brothers realize they're cartoons and that their show is being canceled. They break the fourth wall and even criticize the network's rerun policies. Nickelodeon refused to produce the episode, not because it was scary, but because it directly mocked the network. These are confirmed, documented cases of Nickelodeon banning content. The Legends of the Hidden Temple incident, as described by Kirk Fogg, doesn't fit this pattern at all. It was just a few minutes of unusable footage from a run that was ultimately completed and likely aired in an edited form. The myth also distracts from the very real phenomenon of truly lost Nickelodeon media. Shows from the network's earliest days are genuinely missing, not due to controversy, but due to something far more common: archival neglect. The network's very first original series, Pinwheel, is a perfect example. Hundreds of hours were produced between 1977 and 1984, but today it is considered largely lost. Of the approximately 260 hour-long episodes, less than 4% have ever resurfaced. The tapes weren't destroyed in a cover-up. They were likely recorded over, and complex rights issues make an official release nearly impossible. When you compare the legend of the destroyed legends tape to the mundane reality of lost Pinwheel episodes or the documented censorship of Ren and Stimpy, the myth starts to fall apart. So what's the final revelation? It's not a grainy, leaked video of the infamous temple run. The truth is about why we tell these stories in the first place. There is no evidence that a complete episode of Legends of the Hidden Temple was destroyed. The lost episode is a myth, but like all good myths, it grew from a seed of truth, a very real, stressful moment for a child on a TV set. The supposed cover-up was just the mundane reality of post-production. The crew absolutely edited out the footage of the girls' breakdown. But that wasn't an act of censorship. It was a responsible and ethical decision to protect the dignity of a child. The legend took that simple, decent act and twisted it into something nefarious. It retroactively invented a lost episode where one never existed, turning a few minutes on the cutting room floor into a mystery for an entire community of internet detectives. So why does this legend persist, even after Kirk Fogg set the record straight? Why do people want to believe in the cover-up? The answer lies in our relationship with nostalgia. There's something unsettling about the idea of media from our childhood being lost forever. It feels like a stolen memory. These stories give us a chance to feel like we've uncovered a secret truth. The internet is a powerful engine for modern folklore. A vague memory on a forum gets embellished, then repeated, until it solidifies into a widely accepted fact. The story of the destroyed tape is just far more exciting than the story of an edited temple run. It frames Nickelodeon not as an entertainment producer, but as a powerful entity with dark secrets. That narrative is simply more compelling. In the end, our investigation didn't uncover a lost piece of media. It uncovered the birth of a modern myth. There was no secret banned episode and no grand cover-up. There was just a difficult day on set, a kid who was pushed too far, and a production team that made the right choice to edit around a moment of distress. The lost episode vanished not into a corporate shredder, but into the ether of internet folklore, a testament to our collective desire to find darkness at the edge of our fondest memories. But this raises one last question. We now know the truth, but which story is better? The dramatic myth of the forbidden episode, or the more human reality of a bad day at the office? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.